Hello, everybody. Welcome back. My name is Megan. I'm the Mood Read Queen. And on today's video, I am going to attempt my very first monthly wrap up. Usually, it'll be every month. When I was counting the number of books for this month, because I've never done one before, obviously, I was like, God, this is a lot of books to talk about in one video. But when the school year starts, the number is going to be a lot lower. We're talking like, I don't know, generously like 10 to 15 a month. And that's being generous. So I read a lot this month, but I was also super highly motivated to read this month. So it's going to run the gamut. Some of these I'm going to talk about in more depth than others. Some of these I don't even remember the plot. There's a couple of them, but I'm like, you read this? What were you thinking, you nutcase? I have reasons for most of them. So let's get into it. I'm going to go in order with the exception of books that are parts of series. So if it's a part of a series and I read all of the series this month, I'll just group them all together and tell you about them that way. Sound like a plan? Let's go. Okay, so I'm using my phone again, whatever. I don't take handwritten notes. I know a lot of people are really good at handwritten notes. My handwriting, terrible. I know some people say that and they're like, it's not that bad. They're just like a perfectionist. Oh no, it's not good. My students are like, isn't it like a rule that English teachers have to have good handwriting? And I was like, no, they don't make us do a test. So I'm sorry, but it's just easier for me to use my cellular device for this. So the first book I read this month, which I cannot believe I read, so whatever, I don't know what I was doing. I know what I was doing, actually. So hold on, story time with Megan. So towards the end of June, someone on, who was it? Is it Mary? Mary on Fat Girls in Fiction on Instagram. And I think it's just Mary who runs the account, but there might be a couple other people. She's the one who posts the most, at least from what I understand. She's awesome. She actually has a book coming out soonish that I need to read. I think it's in the fall. But where's the story going? Oh, she posted a list of books that were like plus size representation. In like a yearly or by like every 6 months sale or something that they do on this like romance bookworms. And I never heard of this because again, like I'm new to talking about books with anybody online really. Like I follow a lot of people on Instagram, but the booktube thing for me didn't start until like 3 or 4 months ago. So she posted and she's like, I can't speak for like how good the representation is, but I made a list of all the ones that are included in the sale that are like plus size. So I was like, cool, they're free. So I was so excited because I went on there and like I was going through and reading the summaries of every single one that she was recommending. And then I was like, you know what? Like, no, because I screenshotted it. I'm just going to download all of them. So I clicked on every single one and opened them up on Amazon. You could just download them for free on your Kindle. And then I went through and looked at all the other categories. They were like, mystery categories and LGBT categories and all sorts of stuff. So I ended up downloading 45 books that day. Crazy. And so I had just finished Better Than People, which I will not talk about right here because I read it in June. And this is July wrap up. But a lot of the books that I read in July were directly related to the fact that I read Better Than People. But I needed like a palate cleanser because that book like messed with me. Like in the best way possible. It like rocked me. And I was lost. So I had to read something that was like kind of dumb. So I read this book called Regrets by Imani J. It's part of this O'Malley family series. Listen, I knew nothing about this going in. I just knew that it was supposed to have plus size rep. And I'm just going to read for you, even though you could read this yourself, but I'm going to read it anyway. And that is my review on Goodreads. So I had this to say following reading this very short. Like, it was like not even novella length, so I probably shouldn't have counted some of these, but as a rule, and this is not something I've told you about, as a rule, I do not count fan fiction on my Goodreads. Like, hard no on that. I love fan fiction. I read it all the time. But I don't count it because also, like, if you say that you're reading it on Goodreads, you're calling attention to those things, and sometimes those authors don't want that attention. Sometimes they do, but sometimes they don't. So I don't count any of my fan fiction. So if I'm reading other stuff that maybe not novella length, but is like 50 plus pages or more, I don't do that very often, but I'm probably going to count it just because I feel justified in that. So anyway, this is my review of Regrets. Snagged this in a free sale last week, and it was kinda totally crap. I mean, listen, I wasn't reading it to win any awards or anything. But on top of needing a good proofreading, it was not good. It also just felt super unrealistic and confused. 2 stars for being mildly entertaining, kind of sexy, but mostly for making me laugh unintentionally. So, from what I remember of this story, it's about this girl who, she is like a teenager when she develops this crush on this guy named Declan, who is hot as fuck, obviously. And she waits until she's like old enough to like hit on him. And I think he's a Marine. Let me check. Yeah, he's a Marine. And then eventually he like gets out of the Marines. And she decides to like make her move on him. And he's like, you're too young, that's messed up or whatever. And it's literally just like every few years, she's like, now it's time. And he's like, no, it's not time. And then, and he moves away and stuff. And then, and I wouldn't read this, just FYI. Sorry. Honestly, like, people might really love this. Like, I think the average review is like, it says 3.94. So like, maybe people really like this. But there was like no depth, and he like moves back home and he builds this like big beautiful house, and then he's like, all right, it's time. And she's like, what? And he's like, yeah, I bought a house and shit for you, like, let's do this, bitch. And then she's like, and then they bang. Okay, so if that sounds great to you, you do that. Okay, I was like, what is this? Like, what is going on here? Oh my God. So I read that. And then since we're going in this direction, let's see, how do I want to go do this? Okay. So I read a second book that I also got from the same sale. And it's called, It Hurts Me to Say This to You. This series is called The Chub Club, and the book is called This Pudge Won't Budge. So sorry. Okay, it wasn't that bad though. So like, it was pretty short still, but I liked the premise of this like so much more. Okay, and in fact, I think what I didn't like about it was the fact that honestly, I don't like when you read a story. This is like my take on like insta-love or lust or whatever. That has a time and place for sure. But I really like when you take the time to develop the characters and don't rely on like stereotypes or them telling me a lot about themselves. Like, you can tell me stuff about yourself, but like, I want other people to tell me about you, or like to I want to see you through other people's perspectives. I want to see your actions and figure out what kind of person you are. I don't know if that makes any sense, but like, this book would have been like so much better if it had been like an actual full length, even like 150, 200 pages, because it lacked development. And that bugged me. But anyway, the story, I believe, is about this girl named Shay. And Shay started going to this gym. I think the girls who go to the gym are all friends, and that's why it's called the Chub Club. I don't know. I'm not going to read the rest of these books, probably. Okay, but maybe I will. This is the only one on sale, so I don't own the other ones. And I'm not going to pay for them. I think a lot of them are on KU. So anyway, Shay has a personal trainer, and his name is Vance. And Vance is hot. Because of course he is, right? Because that's just how these stories go. And he's just sort of like... She doesn't think he's very interesting. And he's sort of... like tall, dark, and brooding. Except I don't know if he's dark or not. I don't know if he has dark hair or whatever. But, and I think that's what happens. Is he tall, dark, and brooding? Or does he talk all the time and annoy the shit out of her? That's what he does. Never mind. Forget what I said. He like talks all the time and like annoys the ever-loving shit out of her. And she's like, dude, shut up. Oh my God, you're hot and I can't. This is just annoying, okay? I'm here to work out. And he just like talks to her, trying to like get her to break, basically, like, because like to crack, not to break, because she's so serious. And but he's cute, obviously, and he likes her. And then she goes with her grandma gets massages because she has like, I can't remember what condition she has, but she's obviously getting older as well. But what does he do as his day job? Oh my God. He does like masseuse, PT, occupational therapy shit. And he's like so patient and sweet and adorable. And this is the guy that her grandma's been talking about. And that she wants to set them up. And he's like, holy shit, this is your granddaughter? Like, we have to do it for your grandma. And she's like, I didn't think that this was who you were. And he's like, well, don't pretend that you know me. And anyway, they go on a date. And it's cute. And I'm making it sound better than it is, I think. But let's see what else I had to say. I said I mentioned in my review something about the realistic portrayal of her concerns about her size. And I had to say also props to the author. She did use the word rolls at least once, which I appreciate because I get that, like, maybe, you know, well, not maybe. We definitely, as a society, have been trained to be, like, to not use certain words and to, like, certain things are just icky. And, like, I hate, like, it's a mini rant. I'm sorry. I hate in books that if I'm reading it and I'm expecting some sort of, like, good representation of, like, people who look like me, and you just say that they have curves, and then when things are happening, like where clothing may or may not be optional, and you say, and then you just don't even mention anything. It's like, he touched her stomach. Okay, but what did that feel like? Because, like, I have a stomach too, and granted, I am not the same person that is this person, and we're all different, and we all look different, and that's great. But what did it feel like? I guarantee it wasn't flat. Like, nah. So anyway, this author used the word rolls, and I was like, oh my God, thank you. Because, like, how are you supposed to feel? Oh God, never mind. That's not what this video is about, guys. I'm sorry. Anyway, title sucks. It's shit. And in fact, why in God's name would you call something this pudge won't budge? And she's the pudge that won't budge because she's really stubborn. Okay. Anyway, it's cute. They get together. They visit his family. His family's uber rich and shit, and that's great. It's great. So I read that. And did I read any other ones that I downloaded from that sale? No, I didn't. So I read them as palate cleansers, though. So after I read a book that was, like, more emotionally, like, stomp on your heart, like, ooh, that was good, and it ended happily, but yikes, like, I need something to distract me from how much I loved that book. I just kept reading these, like, little small ones. But I have now 43 left, and they're not all like that. But yeah. So if those sound good to you, great. And if they don't, I didn't do a very good job selling them. Okay, so I then continued I read the majority of this month. I mean, there's a lot of other things that I read this month too. But I read 11 Rowan Parish books. So the first book I read was Better Than People, which was I read in June. But then after that, I read 11 of her other books in July, and I listened to the audiobooks. And I am not going to go in depth with those. If you were interested, I'm going to say what their names are, but I'll just give you a very, 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 very quick introduction to each series that I read, or a very quick summary of the book if it's not a part of a series, and then encourage you to go watch my author deep dive video, where I talk about her writing and her books. So I read Best Laid Plans, which is the sequel to Better Than People. It is about Charlie and Rye. Charlie is he owns a hardware store, and Rye is from Seattle. He moves to Garnet Run, Wyoming, which is the small town where the stories take place. And he starts fixing up this house he inherited from his grandfather. And he's not good at it because, like, Rye's like I don't want to say he's a city boy, but, like, he didn't know what he was doing. And so Charlie ends up offering to help, and they end up connecting. Rye ends up staying with him because he can't stay in this house. It's, not fit for living in. They both have cats that become kind of like low-key besties. And their sort of budding relationship is an opportunity for Rye to sort of settle down and feel like he has a place where he belongs, because he's moved around so much and he's never had a place that's truly his. And granted, he's staying with Charlie, but still, it feels more like a home than any place he's been in. And then Charlie has never been in a relationship before. Hasn't necessarily questioned his sexuality, but he has, it's an MM romance, by the way. Most of Rowan Parish's books are. But he really hasn't, delved into what his desires are. Like, what he wants and what he likes and that kind of thing. So, and this is not a book that's just about sex or anything. I mean, there are, like, every book that she writes are, like, some dope sex scenes, like, but they're, and like, incredibly, like, intimate and personal, and you're like, should I be listening to this or reading it? Like, I feel like this is their moment, and I'm, like, getting in the way. I felt like that a lot. But that probably was because of the audiobook situation. But it's an exploration of their relationship, and it's one of my favorite books of hers. It's so good. I just ordered a signed copy, so I'm so excited. Then The Lights on Knockbridge Lane. I kept saying The Nights on Knockbridge Lane. I can't pronounce it. It's too close to, I don't know. But this is the third one in a series. There's going to be a fourth one that comes out in September, which I'm so excited about. Oh my god. It's a same town, different main characters. You have Adam, who's just moved back to Garnet Run with his 8-year-old daughter, Gus. Her full name is August, but they call her Gus. And then Wes. And Wes is a scientist, kind of a hermit, doesn't really like a lot of people. He is introduced to Wes because they live on the same street, and Gus breaks into Wes's basement where he keeps some of his experiments and some of his, like, fun animal pets. And Adam has been hurt before. His ex decided he didn't want to be with him anymore or be a parent to Gus. And Wes is not very trusting of people. And so they kind of have this tentative, adorable Christmas time romance. And it's definitely worth it. Then I read the remaking of Corbin Whale. This is a standalone, currently at least. She has mentioned that there might be a sequel. I'm hoping that there is, with another character. But this is about Corbin Whale, who is an artist and sort of very quiet, hermit-like. He's got some... I mentioned this in depth in my Rowan Parish deep dive, but he got some issues. I really like Corbin, and then I think it's Alex. If I got the name wrong and I said Alex the whole time in the other video, sorry, I don't remember what his name is, I guess. But I think it's Alex. And Alex is a baker who moves from New York to kind of refresh a shop that's owned by his mother because she wants to basically retire, and he needs a new job anyway. And so He moves, he does renovations, he meets Corbin, who comes in for coffee all the time, and they have this very slow burn romance. It's really cute, and it's cool because like Corbin is one of like the favorite artist and author of Jack from Better Than People, which is a book that I read in June. The first book in the Rend series. Jack is Charlie's younger brother. And so that's kind of a cool in. But in this book has a lot of beautiful language and lyricism, and reading it was like being like you were in Corbin's head. I mean, when you were with Alex, like it was fine too. And Alex is important that you were with Alex sometimes, because otherwise you would not know what the hell was going on. Because Corbin is so spacey, and he like is just like this. His brain is beautiful, but it don't make any sense sometimes when you're in his head. And so, and the way that he sees the world is just super interesting and fascinating. And it's a good book. It's a really good book. But Corbin, at the end of the book, he needed to be going to weekly therapy appointments, like for reals. For real, he needed to go to them. And I was like, why didn't he? Because, I mean, I can't force someone to go to therapy. This is a fictional character, okay? But, Corbin, you need to go to therapy. Okay, then, this is where we kind of, like, weirdly diverge. So, at the same time I was listening to all these audiobooks, okay? Like, I was in a summer class, okay? I just realized that I didn't I have a copy of The Lights of Knockbridge Lane, whatever. I pulled it, I didn't even show it. So I was in a graphic novels class, and, because I want to teach a graphic novel class eventually at the school where I teach. So I am going to go through all the books I read for that class, and then we'll kind of keep going. So this is kind of a weird little, like, the month was strange. So I read March, book 1. I didn't read books 2 or 3. There are 3 of them. This is co-written by John Lewis, Andrew Aiden, and then Nate Powell, I believe. But this is the 3 books, the story of like John Lewis's life. And this covers his early childhood until like younger adulthood. And it covers the sit-ins at the like diners. So it was really good. Stuff that is true. I mean, we all know this from like watching biopic stuff and documentaries. It can be really difficult, but really important to read and watch and learn. So I wouldn't have just randomly walked around and picked this up unless I was feeling like in a self-educational mood. But I like this book a lot. If you don't know a lot about John Lewis, I mean, I'm not super knowledgeable either. Those are things I've been working on. I feel like I miss out on quite a lot of education when I was younger, things that we didn't talk about or things that maybe we did, but I was like not paying attention. But it's cool. You get to see him like, you know, deciding that he wants to be a pastor, and he pastors his chickens. And then he ends up going to school, and really he loved to learn, and then how he gets involved with the nonviolent protest and Martin Luther King and all that kind of stuff. And then there's the historical timeline, and then there's a timeline of him getting ready for Obama's inauguration. So that's pretty cool. So I did read that. And then I also read Mouse, just book 1, which is My Father Bleeds History. Mouse, if you're unaware, is a graphic novel about the Holocaust. And so this book, there's 2 of them. I have not read the second one yet, because again, this is a doozy. And we only had to read the first one for the class. But this follows Art Spiegelman. That is the guy who, this came out in 1986, by the way. But he wrote and drew it. And it is about his father, Vladek, I think. Yeah, Vladek Spiegelman, and his mother, Anja. and follows them through, well, starts with his father, and then obviously the mom is there for the majority of the story. Like what happened to them before the Holocaust, leading into that, before the war, then they're at war. What does life look for them then? They have a son who Art never met because he died, not in a concentration camp. They sent him off somewhere else, and then they found out later that he died, which is just very sad. This is it's a hard book. It's really hard, but it's really important. And I don't know what else to say about it. I will eventually read part 2. This one ends right as he and his wife, Anja, of Vladek, Art Spiegelman's father, and his wife, Anja, enter the gates of Auschwitz. So I anticipate the next book being very difficult to read. But highly recommend, especially, well, just for any reason, if you're trying to get into graphic novels, if you want to learn more about the Holocaust, about that time period, if you have an interest in that in general, I'd recommend it. I also read Dragon Hoops. This is a doozy. It was huge. And this is by Eugene Wen Yang. And he wrote American Born Chinese, so if you're familiar with that, that's more of I would say maybe a middle grade graphic novel. But what does that even mean? You can read graphic novels whenever you want to. And I'll be honest, when I found out we were reading this book, I was like, fuck, I hate sports. And I don't hate sports, but I do. I'm just neutral. I don't care at all. So I care about the Olympics, and I like to read some sports romances. I'm kidding, and that's terrible. And not gonna lie, who doesn't love a good sports movie with dramatic music and shit, and then you tell me what's important to pay attention to, and it's all about teamwork, and I love that shit, okay? But this, I was like, I don't want to... Anyway, it's actually pretty good, because it's not about basketball. I mean, it is. I mean, it's literally a basketball, right? But it's about, the school where he taught at in California. I can't remember what it's called now. I'm not going to try to remember because it's not that important. I mean, it probably is. But they're working towards, it's 2015. They're working toward the California State Championship. And it's this high school that he teaches at. He's a math teacher. But he also works on his graphic novels. And so it's about him hearing kids in the school talk about the team that year and how they think they're going to go all the way. And he's like, that might be an interesting story for a graphic novel. Maybe I should look into it. And so he starts talking to the coach, and then he starts going to their games, and he does interviews, and he spends I don't know how long, because the time is kind of hard to keep track of. I mean, it has the dates and stuff, but also I was done. When I left this book, I was like, bye. Anyway, but it was cool because he gets more and more invested in the team. He went, and then he's trying to figure out what aspects of the story to include, because you have a scandal with a previous coach, and at the end, he's like, they say that that the score doesn't matter, and that's not what the story should be about, but fuck it, go Dragons, I want you guys to win. And I'll tell you what happens, but it's really cool, and the art's cool, and it's an interesting look into the mind of a creator. How are you putting the story together? How do you choose what to include, not include, and all that kind of stuff? And actually, that's something that's also done in Mouse. So if you appreciate that, there are conversations that Art Spiegelman has with his father about trying to get the details right and telling the story in order and what to include. And then Yang also does that. So if you like graphic novels and you're looking for some good ones, the first 3 that I've talked about are all biographical or nonfiction. So, obviously with maybe some elements here or there that are creative nonfiction. But So I read that one. And then the last one that I read for that class that was required was Laura Dean Keeps Breaking Up With Me, which is one that I've been meaning to read for quite a while. I actually bought this one for myself a couple of years ago and just put it on my shelf in my classroom and never thought about it again. And this book was really good. Talked about some important issues, abortion, what's the word? Manipulative, emotionally abusive relationships in high school. And it's about this girl named Freddie. And Freddie has been off and on for a year going out with this other girl named Laura Dean. And Laura Dean is the coolest bitch in school, okay? Like, I'm not gonna lie, we're supposed to hate Laura Dean because Laura Dean is an asshole, okay? Laura Dean breaks up with her on a whim. I mean, she will make out with somebody else and be like, hey, I'm glad we're back together. Like, just misunderstanding, blah, 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 blah. Like, she ignores her and then she wants to be with her all the time. And, Laura Dean. But, guys, even I had a crush on Laura Dean. I was like, damn, Laura Dean, you killing it. She's got like this whole like, what's the word I'm looking for? Not gender neutral. Oh, like an ambiguous sort of thing going on. And so you're like, oh, okay. Like, I mean, and granted, from what we understand in this book, they are a lesbian couple. So, I mean, maybe Laura Dean later on decides, or does further self-exploration or whatever. But in this book, they're a lesbian couple. But Laura Dean was like, I was like, okay, Laura, I can see how people would like you, even though you're an asshole. Because she's a dick. But the art in this is beautiful, and it's really about Freddie realizing the lack of balance she has in her own life and how she throws away everything to focus on Laura whenever Laura's with her. And then her friends and people who matter to her just get thrown to the wayside because she's willingly letting herself be swayed and sometimes dragged by Laura. And it's a really good story. This does take place in high school, and the narrator, Freddie, is a high school student, whereas the other ones I talked about are a little different than that. But I thought it was really well done, and the art is just gorgeous. Like, it's truly, truly beautiful. And then the other two graphic novels that I read for the class, one of them was one that I read as a choice read, and then the second one is a sequel to that. So I read Check Please by, I think it's Ngozi Ukazu, and that was originally a webcomic, and it's so... Guys, in my, if you want to hear me talk about it more, I will try not to cover too much here. And I'll probably do like a sports romance something with it one time. But, I talk about it in my, book haul, mail, get to know me, booktube newbie video. So you might want to check that out. This is about Biddy, who is the shortest and newest member of the Samwell hockey team. And Biddy loves to bake. He is a former figure skater. He is gay. He has not come out to anyone yet. And that is a part of the books 1 and 2. Books 1 and 2, particularly book 2. Book 1 is called #Hockey. And it is about his freshman and sophomore years at Samwell. And it is just, you gotta look up the art for this. I mean, oh my god. Read it for that alone. Biddy is like this precious being. He's so cute. Oh my god. And I think the first year he lives in the dorms, and then he's over at the house, which it's HAUS. It's like the German spelling of house, which is where a lot of the guys from the hockey team live, and they all love Biddy. And he goes to bake over there all the time, and he's afraid of being checked because he played on a co-ed hockey team when he was in Georgia. And so they didn't do body checking, and so he's afraid of getting hit. And Jack is the captain of the hockey team, and he was supposed to go to the NHL draft after he graduated high school, and he didn't. And you kind of get a little bit more information as to why that happened later on. You get to know Jack. You get to know Jack more in the second book, but I don't want to say it's a romance because it's not a romance, but it kind of is a romance because it's literally just like Biddy playing for the team and like baking stuff for them, and he has a vlog where he like talks about baking and stuff that's going on in his life, and he's so freaking adorable, and I would die for him any day of the week. You just tell me, because he's so cute. And then at the end of the first book, Jack graduates, and Biddy knows that he likes him, of course, but you don't get Jack's perspective. Not really, you get Biddy's perspective because it's funneled through this idea of his vlog. Jack realizes he needs to say some things to Biddy before he leaves. Because he's going to go into he's going to start playing professional hockey. And so he does. And it's Parish. And then book 2 is called Sticks and Scones. And it's about Biddy's junior and senior years. And it's less about hockey. Hockey's a part of it, but it's more him coming into himself. You get more like younger hockey team members, he and Jack's relationship, how long can they keep it a secret. And when I tell you this is the cutest shit I ever did read, oh my God. I went and bought there's like a book about like with all of Biddy's tweets. There's right now 3 zines, whatever, like art collections and stuff with some stories drawn by Kazu and I think maybe some other people that are like they can get at like NSFW, and I was like, oh, let's go. Anyway, it's so cute, and I have since branched down a little bit into the fan fiction for Biddy and Jack, and oh my God, because it's like very like PG. They're just Parish, like, which is great. Another one I'm going to talk about later on. Not PG. But anyway, that was the stuff I read for that class. Okay, this is already 37 minutes. We're killing it. Okay, so then I read the Rend series by Rowan Parish, and that like reluctant rockstar romances, basically, or rockstar romances. I guess the first one's a reluctant. So the first one's called Rend. And that is about Theo Decker, who is the lead singer of Rend. And they've been a band for a little while. He was sort of a late addition. They needed a lead singer, someone who could write songs, and he fit in. But he isn't happy. He doesn't really like touring. And he loves performing. But he hates the fame. And he ends up meeting Caleb, who is a former session musician who made several albums. But has now been to, oh my gosh, rehab for, actually I don't know what it was again. Drinking? A combination of factors. Because he's an addict. And so he's been out for a year, and hasn't gotten re-involved in music, even though the opportunity is there, even though he has fans. And people that would support him in continuing to make music, because he feels like music is tied up in the addiction for him. And so he meets Theo, and Theo is involved in the music, but is he worth risking it all for? And it's so good, guys. It's so good. And also the way Rowan Parish like describes music or anything, okay? Like I talk about this in my thing, so I won't go into that much depth, but the way that she describes literally anything, like the science in the Lights on Knockbridge Lane, or the drawing and like the imagination and the remaking of Corbin Whale, or like drawing. I already said drawing. Drawing and in Better Than People, or she just has a way with whatever, like tattooing and different series. Okay, so then the second book in that series is called Rend, and that is about Reese, Caleb's best friend and former boyfriend off and on, and his husband Matt. And Matt grew up in the foster system, has some abandonment issues and a lot of other things, and he thinks that he's dealt with those pretty well. And they have a good relationship, even though it was like a whirlwind. And you get some flashbacks with them, and it's, oh my God, so cute. Because Reese really wants a home. And he never thought that he'd be able to have the music and someone to spend his life with. And Matt wants him to believe that he can have that. But it means that there are things he feels and things he thinks that sometimes he doesn't say, not because he wants to lie to his husband, but because he doesn't want to darken his view of the world, Reese's view of the world. But Reese goes on tour, and when he comes back, Matt is not in a good place. And this is a marriage in trouble romance, and they have to really work through what's causing the issues and how to be honest with each other. And it's really good. And then the third one is called Raise, and this is about Huey, who is Caleb's sponsor, and this guy named Felix. And Felix's sister becomes a new member of the Riven band because Theo ends up leaving. And Felix has taken care of his family his whole life. He sacrificed a lot. And he has a mom and several younger siblings. And he was the oldest sibling, and they didn't have any father figure. And so he's never really taken the time to figure out what he wants, what he's passionate about, and what he wants his future to look like. And Huey lives everything day to day. He's an NA anonymous sponsor, and he has all these routines that he puts into place when he gets sober, like 10 years ago, to stay that way. But then maybe he didn't need them as much anymore, but it felt safe, and so he kept doing them. And so there really wasn't a place in his life for Felix. And so they start basically like figuring out together if life has to be the way that it's always been, or it has been for a long time, or if they can change that together for each other, with each other. It's really good. It was my least favorite of the Riven series, but it was still really good. Then I read the Faye Universe Trilogy by Alessa Thorne, and I downloaded this months ago, and then I was watching a video the other day, and it was recommended somewhere. But this book, there are 3 books in the series. The first one is called Kiss of the Blood Prince, and I'm going to talk about these books also, and I think in like a ACOTAR Light series recommendation video. But this is about, let me make sure I know their names, Elise and Kian. And what is kind of really fascinating about this series is it takes place in modern day. So it's not like weird historical Faye. I mean, that's not what I mean. I like the historical Faye aspect too, but it's not historical Faye. It's like, or like non-specific time period Faye. Like this is like present day Faye. And the Faye have been like locked away in this alternate like reality thing for like 1,500 years. And they finally get out, and Kian is not the oldest. He has 3 brothers. The 2 brothers, Bane and then Killian. But Kian is like the king type figure. He's the one who is the mediator, he does a lot of the talking. And so what happens in this book is Elise is, she works, what does she work? I think she works in where does she work? I think she wants to work in a museum with books and like old books and like relics and stuff, but I don't think that's what her job is. I can't remember now. This book wasn't the best in the series, but she's on a train one day when everybody in the train starts like self-harming or like hurting each other and like going out of their minds. And so then the Fae show up, and she's like, what is this? Is that real? And this guy with like antlers and shit is like on the train, and he looks at her and like he's surprised that she can see him. And so instead of, and she's not being affected by this like madness that everybody else is being affected by. So, he takes her and makes her his slave, even though like the Fae don't have slaves. And, she lives in this castle that he like builds out of like magic or whatever. And then he goes off to like fight more battles and shit. And then she's stuck there like being like neglected basically, because he doesn't really give them specific instructions as to like how to take care of her. But what's interesting about this story is it's kind of a fated mate situation for each brother, but they were cursed before they were sent back through this like portal that's like through Stonehenge. And they're bound by this blood oath that they made to like these kings at the time, like 1500 years ago, that they wouldn't fight each other, like they would have peace. But the kings broke the oath and like started slaughtering all these Fae and these like Faelings, these children and babies. And so that's why, like, when they came back, when the Fae came back, they started attacking all these people, is because they were all direct descendants. And they're sworn by a blood oath that they can't break. And so Elise is sort of drawn to him. And when he comes back, she like starts working in the library, and it's like her dream come true. And they start talking and getting to know each other and stuff. And he doesn't tell her what he thinks he's realizing, which is that she is his mate, because he thought it was like a joke. Like, because there was this sorceress who worked in a loophole in the curse. Oh, I missed the whole curse thing. So he's cursed. He gonna die. Oh, sorry. They're all gonna die. So like, he was like, kind of like bloodthirsty, I guess, before, you know, before they left, like before they were banished. And so he's the blood prince, which means like his curse is he has to drink blood, but he's not a vampire. And so like he drinks her blood, and it like starts, his hair is red on the tips, and it used to be all red, like this beautiful, like, I don't know, like auburn, whatever. But now it's white and then red at the tips. But when he drinks her blood, like the red starts coming back, and he realizes, oh shit, the sorcerer's lady who like told us that if we found our mates that they could break the curse, I thought it was like a fluke, but this could happen, really? So he doesn't tell her, though. They like make this deal, and he doesn't tell her. And it's like not the best book ever, but it's fascinating about the way that the Fae come back, and then the relationship that they're going to have in the future with humans. Okay? So like, if you read the first book and you're like, oh, I don't know, just hold on, okay? Second book is called The Heart of the Winter Prince, and this is about Bane, Kian's brother. And he was like the executioner, and he's sort of like the dark, broody type. And he's gonna die. Like, his curse, he's like, his heart is slowly freezing. But Elise is now his, like, sorry, spoiler alert, his sister. And she's like, I know that you don't care about the whole mate thing, but I don't want you to die, okay? And if you're not gonna look for her, I like how they assume it's a her. I mean, it is, but like, not gonna lie, I would have liked to have like one thing going on, but I read about that anyway. So Bane is like, I'm not interested, okay, in finding a mate. And she's like, okay, well then I'm gonna figure this out for you. And so she does research. They think they find a dagger that might exist that was used to kill like frost giants or something. That's not that important, okay? And she knows someone who can help find it. And the person who can help find it is actually her cousin. And her cousin is Freya. And Elise low-key hopes that Freya's Bane's mate, but she's not going to say, you know? And so Freya and Bane start working together, but like, you know, they start realizing things. And then he's like, oh shit, is this mate shit real? Because he knows it is, because like his brother is like with Freya, or not Freya, with Elise, but he's like, I didn't think this could happen for me. Crazy. And so they start looking for this dagger, but then he's realizing that they may not even need the dagger, because like if she like is his mate, then like she's gonna break his curse. And the longer they're together, like I think they kiss, or maybe they have, yeah, they start sleeping together, and like the white lines around his like heart start like receding. And but he also, these guys don't know when to be honest about the whole mate thing. And so and then there's also this ex-boyfriend of hers who's like uber jealous and like total creepo. And yeah. And so he might pose some danger, and Bane might have to protect her, but also she can protect herself. Like, she's like a badass and like knows all these like moves and shit, but you know, it's good. It's a better book than the first one by far. Okay. But then the real gem here, okay, is the Wings of the Night Prince. And the Wings of the Night Prince, you meet the brothers in the first book, and then every book they're all there. So you've met Killian. Killian's the older brother by like 200 years, so he was an only child for like a hot second. And Killian is like my baby. So I was talking to a friend about this, and I was like, I can't even remember Kian and his like general like personality, but when he's not like crazy trying to get blood or like in some weird fugue state, he's sort of like he's fairly rational, because again he's like the one who negotiates and things like that. But Bane is the whole like, I don't want to mate, like I don't want to think about that, and I'm like sad and broody and dark, and just leave me alone. Okay, just leave me alone. And Killian is like, I'm hurt and lonely, but I'm going to deflect that by being sarcastic and maybe a little bit of an asshole. And that just does it for me. Like, I'm just saying it does. So anyway, this is his story. He meets this girl named Braun, and she is an Ironwood, and she's spent her whole life, and her family has spent like all of their lives training to basically kill his ass whenever he comes back, if that were to ever happen, because apparently there's a story that there was an attempted assassination by one of their like ancestors, and he thwarted it and then let him go. Well, they don't remember that part. They remember him threatening to kill the entire family, so they've been training to kill him. So she's a little pissed that she's a bounty hunter as well, that she can't kill him because they're going to get paid for this job. But then, and he doesn't understand why she hates him so much, because she has to save him from this situation that he's in. And he's been tortured, and it's not good. It's very Reese-esque, okay? So if you like ACOTAR, yeah, this is a good series to check out. But, and they're short too. But anyway, his curse is that he was kind of like the aristocrat and the like the man whore type, like, and that was like his job as like in the family, and that kind of also hid the fact that he really was looking for love. And so now he wants more than anything to find his mate, because his brothers both did, but he doesn't want to admit that. And so he meets, and his curse is that he can't touch anyone. Like, no physical, like, skin-to-skin touch. So he's also, like, really horny. But they meet, and she touches him before he gets a chance to warn her, and she doesn't die. Because everyone else has died. Like, and he's like, holy shit. What? And then she's pissed at him, though. And he's like, what'd I do to piss you off? And she's like, you're going to kill my whole family. And he's like, excuse you? That's not even true. I let him live. That guy thought he could kill me? Why would I want to kill your family? That's ridiculous. So she's like, oh shit, okay. So anyway, but then you also have another threat, and there's like this crazy Faye witch or whatever named Morgan, and she's trying to come back. It's, it's not that complicated, but I don't want to go through the whole plot. And so he and Braun are going to work together to get rid of this bitch, and also his family's gonna help, and you're gonna meet people in her family. Anyway, there is right now 2 books in the spin-off series, the Ironwood series, and I wanted to read those for this wrap-up, but I just couldn't get my life together enough. Okay. So those are good ones. Then I read The Middle of Somewhere series by Rowan Parish, and I'm not gonna talk about that here, okay, because it's almost an hour-long video. It's a good series. It's her first series. The first one was called In the Middle of Somewhere. And it is Daniel and Rex's story. Rex is lives in a small town, kind of like handyman, doesn't like to talk a lot, kind of loner, but nice. And then there is Daniel, who is really high strung and kind of neurotic, and doesn't want to be in this small town, but it's the only place that was going to give him a job right out of getting his PhD in English, in American literature. And so he meets Rex, and it's kind of them figuring out if like this is what they want, like this relationship, and it's cute. But this is their first series, so there are a lot of sophisticated themes happening and some really beautiful writing, and I like a lot of the characters, but it does struggle a little bit with pacing and sometimes character development. Out of Nowhere is the best in the series. There are 3 books, and this deals with Daniel's older brother Colin, who has an incredible amount of internalized homophobia, and it is really hard to read. But it was a beautiful story, like truly beautiful. It's about him and this guy named Rafe. And he can't even say the word gay out loud. He can't even do that. Okay? Let alone admit that he wants anything. Like everything he gets comes from an alleyway. Okay? So that's where we're going. And then where we left off is Will and Leo's story. Will is Rex's former boyfriend who now lives in New York. Leo, as a kid, he graduated high school early, befriends Daniel when Daniel moves to that small town, and then ends up going to college for a year and then going to New York to chase after Will, because they met when they were in town at the same time in the first book. And I didn't like that one nearly as much. I didn't feel like they were on the same page, and miscommunication was a huge problem, and at the end I wasn't sure I didn't know if I had faith that they were going to stay together. So, then we're almost there, kids. I read Small Change, which is also by Rowan Parish. This and the next one I did not talk about in my Rowan Parish deep dive, so I will talk a little bit more about them here. But the Middle of Somewhere series and the Small Change series happen they're very much overlapping. So the first book is Daniel and Rex. And that takes place at about the same time as Colin and Rafe's story and Ginger and Christopher's story, which is the first book in the Small Change series. Ginger is Daniel's best friend. She's a tattoo artist. She's been doing that since she was like 16. And she hasn't had great relationships. I mean, great experiences with the relationship, I guess you could say. Like, she's friends with one of her exes. Is it Matt? Oh, God. And now I can't remember the guy's name. But he works at her tattoo shop. And they're really good friends. And that's also a great representation of a trans character as well. But anyway, she just is very closed off and doesn't think that she can live the life she wants, work as much as she needs to, do her art, and commit her life to someone as well, which is a relatable thing, honestly. So, yeah, it's good. So she meets Christopher. Christopher is like this flannel wearing, like, ginger, like literally ginger, like red hair. And he owns a new sandwich shop down the way in Philadelphia. And so he's noticed her before. They meet because she is an irresponsible human, as we all are, and she does not do a good job grocery shopping or making food for herself. Me. And Daniel as well. I was like, are these books about me? So they meet that way, and then they have this really slow burn, get to know you. Is Ginger gonna run away? Christopher really likes her. And it's really just that story. Can she give part of her life to this? And is that okay? And is that what she wants? And Christopher, sees the world in a very different way than she does. He's much more positive and smiley, and she doesn't want to affect that. But also, his world isn't all light either. He writes to his brother Jude, who is in the hospital after trying to commit suicide. And so he doesn't have chapters, but he does have letters every chapter that I don't know if it's before every chapter or after every chapter, but he has letters that he writes to Jude. And sometimes it's texts. And so he's kind of dealing with that. And then Jude gets out of the hospital and And then you have the whole meeting the family, that kind of thing going on. But I really liked this book. It was the first one I read from Rowan Parish that wasn't like an MM romance. So like I had to, adjust my expectations a little bit, which I know sounds ridiculous, but like, I don't know. You like what you like to read, right? So this is the mood read queen situation. And I was really in MM mode. So I had to be like, okay, it's fine. Just read about Ginger and Christopher. He sounds really nice. Because again, we've met Ginger and Christopher in 2 of the previous books. Because the storylines all kind of overlap. So it's a good book. I really liked the way they talked about tattooing. It was pretty cool. Then the last book in the series is called An Invitation to the Blues, and I liked this one. It was really good. It's about Farron and Jude. Jude is Christopher's older brother. He has struggled with anxiety and depression his entire life, and it is something that he's never really gotten a handle on. Like, he's been to doctors and therapists, and he's had medication changes, but there are just things that, and understandably so, that he feels like will never be able to be changed. And so he fled, where was he living before? New York? No. Boston. I think it was Boston. He fled Boston after he left the hospital, like left his partner, who was an asshole. And then he ends up meeting Farron at an art show that Ginger has in the first book. And then he is trying to figure out what to do for money because he is working at the sandwich shop with Christopher and he hates it. Like, he doesn't have a great relationship with food. I don't know if we'd say he has an eating disorder because it's like a thing with like the texture of food and different things like that. It's just, so he's got something related with food that he probably needs to have someone look into, honestly, for him. Because that's a huge discussion in the book. Like, he just doesn't want, like, that just, like, him working with, like, even the meats to put them on the sandwiches is just, like, too much for him. He's like, I cannot do this. I have to quit. So he starts doing piano lessons because he's a pianist. I forgot to mention that. And he would often play with the Boston Orchestra and the symphony and stuff. And so he misses music desperately, but he doesn't want to go back because his former partner of 5 years, can't remember his name right now, it'll come to me maybe. I didn't write a review on this yet, I really need to. They didn't have a great relationship, and it was almost like they were in a relationship so this other guy could say how great of a guy he was by helping Jude, who struggles. And so Farron is, he's black. He has a twin brother who's in the military. He's younger than Jude by about 10 years or so. He loves to paint. He went to school for that kind of thing too. But then, and he almost got famous, and then he didn't like what was happening in terms of like the exploitation of people and the money. And so he is kind of putting that on hold for now. But he really likes Jude, and he's so patient, and they actually communicate about things that Jude's never been able to talk to people about before. And there's just some, it in a lot of ways reminded me of Simon and Jack's book, Better Than People, which I read in June, just because Farron is so patient. He does have his own stuff, but he's so patient and willing to support, and Jude really needs that, because no one ever has really listened to him before, or they think they're listening, but like they're not listening, and they're not hearing him, and he has, and Jude has issues with his medication and stuff as well. So I'm not making that sound super interesting, but it really is a great book. And I think I had read so many at that point that I was like, okay, let's put it on pause. Like, I need you to slow down. Because I just went through 12 books in a month. Like June 25th, and I finished the last one on July 25th. Like, just flew through it. So then I'm going to talk about 2 web comics, webtoons. one of them is technically done and the other one isn't. And I'll share about these occasionally. I do read them. About 2.5 years ago now, I started watching anime with my nerd herd, which is a group of nerd children that I do at my school. And it's really cute. And we started watching it. We do monthly themes, and I was like, wait a second. Is this good? Do I like this? So then I started reading in March and April of 2020 when we were all just chilling at home, which I really wish I would have taken more advantage of that time, honestly. It was kind of the best time of my life. But I started reading I started reading manga, and since then I've branched into some like webtoon areas. So we're counting this as having it read, but honestly, it's still ongoing. But like in order to count it on Goodreads, I'm just gonna say it's done and then keep reading on my own. And that is this one called Define the Relationship, and it's so good. Like I really like it. I gave it 4 stars, but it's not perfect, and I'm not gonna go into a ton about this. But a lot of the ones I talk about, they're like, they're going to be MM probably. Although there are, the webcomics anyway. A lot of the manga I read, it varies. It just depends. And I haven't read a lot recently, which is why there hasn't been any in this wrap up. But this is about Carlisle and Ash. And we're about to go real deep, okay? So, Omegaverse stuff. Okay. So I'm not going to get into this a lot, but then and the worlds differ based on whatever you're reading, of course, and it stems from like the wolf shifter stuff, and then it became a huge part of like Japanese stories and manga. But you have like the alpha, the beta, and the omega. So this idea that an alpha is like the dominant person who's going to be like doing the like giving a lot, getting people pregnant, whatever, probably like more like dominant personality. The beta is like regular human person, right? Like whatever, either way. And then the omega is like typically like submissive, typically the one who's on the receiving end of things, typically the one who's going to get pregnant. That explanation is like fine, but depending on what you're reading, that can look different. So like we don't get into the Omegaverse a ton in this because I don't know how much is supposed to come through, but both characters are supposed to be alphas. So if you have 2 male characters who are alphas, like clearly like there's not going to be like a child as a result of that relationship. But you have Carlisle, who is like trying to be the best son, and he has been having like not relationships, like these one night stands with all these like omegas, because that's what he's supposed to do. But eventually he's going to have to find someone that he wants to get married to and then like have an heir. And, but he's having a sexual frustration and, having some performance issues. And so his therapist suggests that maybe he try doing it for fun, basically, and like maybe switching things up a little bit and doing something with an alpha instead. And so he ends up meeting Ash, and I don't really know how to talk about this. It's a hella cute. The art is beautiful. Carlisle's never been in a relationship before, so he doesn't know what he's doing. Like, he's had sex before, but he's never been in a relationship. And he's never had to think about someone else's feelings or his own, because that's not what was expected of him. And so now he's having feelings, but he knows that this is just, I think they said 30 days or 30 times or something. I can't remember now. So I'm afraid it's going to end, and I don't know. I have some suspicions about what might be revealed at some point, but I don't really know. Normally, I in only the past like 3 months have I started reading these things that are updated weekly. So it's kind of weird because you're like reading and it's not done yet. And anyway, so yeah, it's cute. You should check it out. I will say I do try to read them all on Lezen Comics. That's where I read most of mine, but it can be expensive. And so like if you have another site that you can do the 50-50, it's still important to support the authors and the artists, of course. And then the one that I read that was like, what's a good word? Educational might be a good word. Because holy shit, guys. Okay. So I read this one. This is called The Secret Life of the Demon King. Okay. When I say I learned shit when I read this, it was like, I mean, these are a lot, like, not gonna lie. They're a little bit, I don't even know what word here is. Very smutty, like, really smutty, like, you see everything. Well, sometimes they have, like, the lightsaber syndrome where you can't see everything, but you get the gist, okay? And it is, oh, Lord, child. And this is about Hell, the Demon King, who is bankrupt or something. The plot is flimsy, okay? There isn't really one. And so he decides he's going to get a job to pay his servants. So he goes to get a job at this, like, sex club or whatever. It's so... And then, so he has to be trained by this guy named the manager, who won't share his name with him. And they both start catching the feels while the manager's training Hell. And every night Hell goes home to his, servants and lives his life or whatever. And then he goes back the next day. And they're like, where does he go all the time? And also, Hell's never had sex before. The things that the manager does to him, because he has to be able to basically... God, here we go. I'm going somewhere weird. Leave now if you want to. He has to teach him how to, like, orgasm from, like, a variety of different stimuli. Okay? Because, like, that's what the clients want. So we go through all sorts of stuff. Like, all sorts of stuff. We're talking, like, sex toys. So many sex toys. Like, crazy sex toys. He and the manager don't actually do, like, they don't have sex together because it's training, but they do kiss, which technically is not part of the training, but the manager really likes him, and he's like, well, I'll let myself have this. And you're like, okay, you guys are going to do this later. I know it. So anyway, it's literally 74 chapters long, I think. I don't even know why I read the whole thing, because it was like, what am I reading? This is like, I mean, it's great. I loved it. It was wonderful, but it was, oh, Lord. And so it's just like, then Hell's, he starts having clients, and he's still undergoing training, and then his servants are like, what is he doing? And we need to save him because he shouldn't be working. And, yeah. And then at the, Jesus, I don't even know. And then at the end, you find out some weird stuff, and then, like, he and, the manager get married, and it's dope. So anyway, what a way to end this wrap up, right? God. So anyway, I read some 24. We're going to say 24 books. A couple of those were shorter novella length or shorter than that. Of course, we had several graphic novels, some web comics or webtoons. A lot of these were audiobooks as well. And again, this is at least like double probably what I will read in a normal month. So I'm sorry that this video is so long, but just keep in mind that, like, when it's not summer anymore, like, I will not be reading this much. I will have so many other things to do and so many other things to worry about. But it was summertime, and I knew that I was going to have time, and there were a lot of things that I wanted to explore. So that's it. Yeah, I already have my August plans up, so you can check those out. Excuse me, I actually made a TBR, so we'll see how that goes. But I'm excited, and thank you for watching. Thank you for sticking around for an hour and 15 minutes. That's true dedication. You could have watched a movie. You could have watched a movie, but you didn't. Maybe you still will. But anyway, thanks for joining me. Thanks for your support and your views, which you can watch or not watch. It's up to you. We're just doing this for fun, with like a teensy bit of a hope that it becomes more than fun later, but like mostly I just like to talk. So have a great rest of your day, your life, your year, and I'll see you next time. Bye.